yourself. I am more than my physical body. Because I am more than physical matter, I can perceive that which is greater than the physical world. I deeply desire to expand, to experience, to know, to understand, to control, to use such greater energies and energy systems as may be beneficial and constructive to me and to those who follow me. I deeply desire the help and cooperation, the assistance, the understanding of those individuals whose wisdom, development, and experience are equal to or greater than my own. I ask their guidance and protection from any influence or any source that might provide me with less than my stated desires.
I do not know all the answers to the questions about reality. I do not claim to know the ultimate truth about life. I seek that which has been made hidden as a part of a family of explorers of consciousness. I am the void one.
Welcome to Lighting the Void.
All broadcasting live from a shack on a hill in the Mossy Creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void live, and we're on the Fringe FM. Live on the Fringe FM. Thank God. We are back. I hope you guys had a great Memorial Day weekend. I hope you didn't get too drunk. And hold on, let me make sure my sound is a little loud. Jesus Christ. Hope you guys didn't get too hammered. You made it back safe, most of you, I see. So thanks for joining us live on the Fringe FM and also live on Nowadays. We are trying this out. We're live on YouTube. I'm still trying to figure out Rumble, but we're live, damn it. So that means anything goes. Anything can happen. You know, the world can come to an end while we're talking. We could get a crazy caller. I could have a meltdown on the air. Nothing's recorded. Nothing is perfected for your ears. And in this day and age, this is a tough market, I got to tell you. I've been evaluating. You know, when they say comparison is the number one cause of depression, that is a fact. Because once I get out there and I start looking at what I'm up against content creators and live streamers, especially live streamers, it's rough, man. And I started getting depressed. And if you're watching the video, if you can see, I got to fix some stuff, especially my face. I haven't shaved in a while. And I'll tell you why. This is brain rot from playing Destiny 2. You know, they say the gaming industry is bigger than the movie industry and the movie and the music industry. It's bigger than everything right now. It's huge. I don't get it. I didn't get it before, but now I do. Gaming is a place where people can be not themselves. And I'm going to tell you something here before we get into this new text that we're going to get into that I think you guys are going to like. It's a little old, but it's called Astral Doorways. And as a traveler myself, I've thought why keep picking on Wes Penry when we can talk about something way cooler? Really. It's Astral Projection and Astral Doorways. This book was written by J.H. Brennan. It was a long time ago. And I always say, man, people got it wrong when it comes to the out-of-body experience and astral travel. And I say that a lot, but have I really thought about it? It's like, have I really looked into it? Anyways, that's what we're going to talk about. But I got to tell you, man, I have brain rot right now. I haven't shaved. I realized I skipped a shower. I don't skip showers. I don't do that. But Destiny 2 is like one of those games that I go to for nostalgic reasons. And I got Juan playing it. So if you want to check us out, we've been streaming over on Juan's show. And he's getting into gaming. And he said, hey, man, I need a game that, because he wants to talk about occult stuff in the gaming world, right? How's you guys' video, by the way? Or is that my Wi-Fi doing that? Because it looks terrible. Like, it's really pixelated. It could be my Wi-Fi doing that. Let me know. But anyways, I thought about Destiny. I don't know why I told him this, but Destiny's been like my crack. So everybody's got some kind of crack, some dark secret that they don't want to tell everybody. Mine's not a drug. It's not sugar. It's not sex. It's none of that stuff. Well, I run away. I take long walks. I do all kinds of stuff. But when I really, really want to be alone and get out of my head, I play this game called Destiny 2. And it might take my life. I don't know. It's one of the hardest games to start. But once you get involved with it, you're done for if you're a gamer. And there's so much lore and so many occult things hidden inside of it. It's like, I get why, I don't know if it's the same for girls, but I get why guys get lost in video games. I totally do. Because the masculine works on a system of, if you want to break it down logically, okay, because that's what we all love to do, right? We need our formulas so we can understand where we are in our categories in this social environment, okay? So masculine energy likes reward. We connect based on reward. We do a thing, we get rewarded for it. We get cooler and cooler stuff as we go along, So it really plays towards the masculine's mind, where the feminine mind likes to connect. It works the same way in relationships too. Masculines like work on a system of reward, like cause and effect. Oh, I love you, you love me back, that's great. Or I did this thing, I achieved this, do you love me back? Great, I feel love. Women, it's all this connection. Well, this game, yeah, Bryce said it, it's the adventure that you can't have in the real. This game is playing towards all sides of me. The majority of masculine, because it's so reward heavy, but the worlds that you can go into, and it's insane. It's insane. I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, I could break this thing down for days, but I'm not going to. Then I looked up and it's like 6-7 hours have passed. I haven't burned 1 calorie. Not one. But I gotta say this, man. You could see human nature in video games. If you really want to get to know somebody, they used to say, well, go for a drive and listen to some music with a person, right? And then you'll kind of get to know who they are. Or go watch a movie with a person and you'll get to know who they are. If you could figure out what kind of video games a person plays and what they like or who they want to be or what floats their boat in the video game, you're going to know more about that person than you ever will listening to music, talking to them, or anything. Like, do they care about looking cool the most? Or do they like aesthetics? Or do they just like being alone and doing their thing? I can go on and on about it. But, yeah, Bryce is right. It's like being able to go into the astral world without actually going into the astral world. For sure. I figured out, I was just talking to Juan and everyone, and I figured out why I like it so much. It's because It's my escape, but then I want to take other people into that escape with me, if it's possible, if at all possible. And then it got me worrying. Like, am I going to stop trying to explore consciously? I gotta get the look. You guys are going to get pissed at me, but I've got 4 or 5 days until the new season comes out. I'm going to play this. I'm not going to sleep very much. I'm not going to play the games other people want me to play. I got to get my money's worth. Like, I really feel like I'm on some kind of heroin right now or something, playing this game. It's so wonderful. Like, I don't even care that I haven't shaved. I don't care. Don't care. Right now, I'm not Joe Roop. Right now, I am one of the Guardians in Destiny 2, a power level 1810, who is getting ready to take the final shape and is making sure that he's gotten every weapon that he can get, every piece of armor, buddied up with as many people as he can, did every mission, and got unlocked every achievement that I can until that happens. So half of me's not even here right now with you. I apologize. All right. So let's do this. What's up, Wu-Tang? This book is called Astral Doorways by J.H. Brennan. This was published in the 70s. 1971 it was first published. Second impression was 1972. And the third impression was March of 1975. That means our parents have been astral traveling. Let's see if I agree with this guy. Warning. Several techniques outlined in this book are dangerous. Readers are advised to take this fact into consideration before attempting to experiment with any of the doorways. Understanding the astral. And speaking of astral doorways, if you like, we have a deck of scrying cards at the Fringe FM shop. It's the end of the month, man. We need your support. I'm bad. So if you want to buy something, do it now, please. If you want to support us, do it now, please. If you already have, like Michael and other people, Barefoot Hippies, I think. If you are who I think you are who you are. You bought like 6 decks. You know, if you haven't supported and you've always thought about doing it, do it. Even if it's just a few bucks, it'll help. So the composite form of the Sphinx, I'm loving this already, also represents by hieroglyphical analogy the 4 properties of the universal agent. That is to say, what is called the astral light. Dissolving, coagulating, heating, and cooling. These 4 properties, directed by the will of man, can modify all phases of nature, producing life or death, healing or disease, love or hatred, wealth, even poverty, in accordance with the given impulsion of Eliphas Levi, The History of Magic. I got something on my face. Ooh. Didn't say hi. Who did I not say hi to? Haley, what's up, Haley? Thanks for telling me about the bottom left. I'll fix that eventually. It's just a 80s effect. Just look at it that way. The call-in number is 501-777-5631. When we go through this kind of stuff, if we don't have a guest on or if I open the phone lines up, it doesn't matter if I'm in the middle of a read. If you got something to say or a thought, think of this as our book club. You can call in anytime you want. Hey, Genevieve, how you been? Where was I? It took me more than 10 years to find out what that meant. Occult grimoires are packed with references to the astral plane or astral light. And there is a lot of references to what's called the astral light, for sure. And a lot of theosophy and stuff. But lucid definitions are few and far between. The descriptions are tempting, although abhorred by the mystic, who sees it as a diversion from spiritual development. The astral plane holds many rewards for the magician. On it he will find the visions of time past and time to come. On it he will find gods and the demons, the sylphs, the salamanders, the archangels, and the elementals. On it he will find the secret of power, the key, as Levi intimates, to the production of miraculous effects on the physical plane. Well, I like how this is starting out already. It's got me interested. At first, I thought of the astral plane as a parallel space-time continuum. The idea was heavily influenced by science fiction and, in retrospect, contained a germ of truth. But it was not the whole truth, not even a good approximation of the whole truth. Let me zoom in here a little bit. Later, it seemed the plane must be time, considered as a fourth dimension. The idea came from Ouspensky, who argued that three-dimensional creature operating in a two-dimensional world must produce miraculous effects. It might, for instance, escape from the walls. Every night, man. No bugs until I get on the air. It might escape from the walls of a square by stepping over them, or from a two-dimensional viewpoint with no conception of height, a miracle would have occurred. Perhaps then miracles in the three-dimensional world are simply manifestations of a fourth dimension, and imperfectly experienced as time. Would you guys agree with that? Do you guys understand that? Hopefully everybody understands that. What's up, Ava? So if you think about, like, if we're three-dimensional creatures and we moved into a two-dimensional plane, those beings that were living on a two-dimensional plane would think that we're freaking aliens or some kind of cosmic weird thing, whatever. Just like, I think of it like this, if you want to think of it and how it would feel. So fish live in their own world. They have a whole universe in the ocean and in rivers and all kinds of stuff. If I stick my finger into the water, let's say they live in two dimensions, and I stick my finger into the water, they're going to see that as some kind of interfering, who knows what they're going to see. They'll probably think it's the end of the world. That's why they freak out. If I stick my fingers into the water, all of my fingers look separate. So it looks like a bunch of separate beings, but it's really a hand. You know, I think that's what it would be like if a fourth dimensional, or the fourth dimension, if it ever came into the third. So when we see things like shadow beings or apparitions, or when we go into the astral realm or whatever we're doing, whenever we have a paranormal experience, I think that it's probably just a fourth dimensional creature or an astral traveler that we can't really understand, if that makes sense. So he's thinking the same thing. He says, could this fourth dimension be the astral plane? I thought so for a while, but descriptions never really added up. The use of the word astral in occult literature never really added up either. It became obvious that the term had more than one meaning. Muldoon's astral body, for instance, had no real connection with the astral plane. His meanderings had really taken place in the etheric body, which was something else again. It occurred to me eventually that the astral plane was not a place. One reason why magicians like Eliphas Levi prefer the expression astral light. Yet thinking of the astral as a condition had its drawbacks too. All the descriptions seemed exactly like a place. In London, seeking membership of an occult fraternity, I put the question to one I thought should know. And he told me the astral plane was an old term for the realm of the visual imagination. That's what I've been trying to tell everybody. When you go out of body, you're in your etheric body. You're not in your astral body, so to speak. But years later, I was to say the same thing to a fellow student. She frowned and said it couldn't be. The answer was too simple. My own reaction was similar. But to describe the astral plane as the stuff of daydreams seemed almost an insult to the magical grimoires. But my mentor was right, and I was wrong. My problem was superficial understandings. Like most people, I equated imagination with unreality. Understanding is far from easy, and I apologize in advance. Some readers find the next few pages obscure, but the reminder of the book is less so, I assure them. But it is based on the ideas I'm about to give, so they will repay a little extra concentration now. I don't like how he writes. Some of what he's saying doesn't make sense, but I found the best way to approach the problem was first to analyze exactly who or what we are. This exercise is seldom carried out. The average man accepts himself without examination. He is a body and a mind. His ultimate nature is a mystery because he seldom feels the urge to think about it. Zen Buddhists in Japan and the Sufis of the Middle East pay more attention to the essential self. In preliminary training, a Sufi adept might place a lighted candle beneath your hand. What did I do then? He asks you, snatch your hand away. You burned me. That's your answer, right? But with Oriental patience, he will explain that he did not burn you because your body is not you, not the essential you. If the painful experiment is repeated, you might be tempted to reply that he burned your hand. But this, on reflection, is not true. The hand is not a part of you, just something you can use. And although distinctly wearing on the pupil, the approach is useful. For it demonstrates in a dramatic way the possibility of arriving at the self by eliminating what the self is not. You ever done that? Asked yourself like who and what you are? And you can't really answer it, so you just start saying, well, I know I'm not this, and I know I'm not that. That's just a part of me. You are not, as we have seen, your body. That is merely something that carries you around. So forget about it for the moment. Are you then a mind? Well, this is closer, but not close enough. For mind can cover much more than the essential you. Thoughts, for instance, are a part of the mind, yet you are not your thoughts. They change every waking moment. You remain, Joyce showed it possible, to observe the stream of consciousness. You are the observer, not the stream. Is that really all we are? Is just observers of streams of consciousness? That's really all we are? You are not your emotions, although emotions may sometimes overwhelm you. Emotions are as transient as thoughts. The real you is not transient. You are not your memories, for these will fade while you remain. You are not your personality, for your personality differs from your personality at the age of 3, yet the essential you still remains. It is, in theory, possible to suffer from amnesia, blindness, deafness, lack of taste and touch and smell to paralyze the body and stop the stream of consciousness, and yet you are still you, yourself. Once you grasp this idea, you have come to a negative understanding of the essential self. But a Zen master would go further, equating this persistent kernel with the all. But you're not ready for this step. I'm ready. You are, however, ready for a fresh understanding of your mind. You're ready for a fresh understanding of your mind and your environment. You may, in fact, be ready for a fresh look at the meaning of reality. But the dreadful earnestness of your position needs not frighten you too much. I would refer you now to the diagram marked Figure 1, which is the realization of the self to the physical and mental worlds. You guys want to see this? Let me see if I can show it. It's really not that crazy of a picture, but this is from the 70s, so he's got the self in the middle of what looks like to be a multicolored Band-Aid, I guess. And it's made up of 3 colors, and the self is the densest color. In the middle, on the right, as the color fades out, you have the physical world, and on the left, as the color fades out, you have the mental world, and you're right here in the middle. So if you take the dividing line marked self as the essential you, to the right of that line extends the physical world. First, your body, or to show its various gradations, but first your body, the most immediate point of contact with the self, then your immediate environment, and perhaps the room in which you now sit reading. Next, an intermediate environment, still yours in a sense, your town, your country, and the different countries you know at first hand. Beyond that, the world. Familiar only at second hand through books and traveler's tales, and beyond the world of the universe. Boy, he's really getting deep. All right, here we go. To the left extends your mind. First, your present personality, the inner mask on the essential self. Then your immediate area of awareness, the conscious thoughts and feelings. Next, your personal subconscious, the Freudian reservoir of buried memories and experiences. Beyond that is the collective unconscious, a psychic expression of the basic brain, accessible only by means of symbols, and beyond that, the mind's antipodes. Both arms of the diagram are open-ended. Neither the totality of the universe nor the totality of the mind is known to man. A diagram like this has limitations. It cannot show, for instance, how mind appears to interpenetrate with matter. But it can express a basic truth. That self is poised between the worlds of matter and of mind, and that both worlds are distinct and real. Examination of this picture shows your experience of the physical plane is strictly limited. So too is your awareness of the mental realm. But there are techniques that exist to extend inner awareness. That is what this book is all about. And where the astral plane comes in. Now please examine the diagram of figure 2, which is like that same, it's basically that same Band-Aid I was telling you about, but it's got a square on the top left. Here, I'll show you guys. But it's not that hard to perceive. Conceive? I don't know. All right. Where did I leave off? The black area added to the basic diagram represents the astral plane. It extends from the self and touches all parts of the mind. Consider the area as a fluid medium reacting to the psychic forces underneath. Thoughts become pictures, abstractions become symbols, emotions become the driving forces behind them. If you sprinkle fine sand on a metal plate and sound a note directly underneath, the sound waves produce patterns in the sand. The astral plane works in much the same way, but here, it is psychic forces which build up the patterns. The most common form of astral operation is the daydream. Your immediate thoughts are brought alive as a playwright's words come alive on stage. You see the thoughts as pictures rather than hearing them as words, and you have a more or less conscious control of what is going on. But as you travel further into the astral, control becomes less secure. Unconscious forces shape the imagery environment, and symbols take on a life of their own. At the same time, the self gradually loses touch with the physical world, and awareness becomes increasingly confined to the astral. Which, if you think about it, if you exist down here, and this isn't relative to like actual space and time, but if you exist, let's say this right here is Malkuth on the tree of life, in the bottom part. So everything that you do, think, give emotions to, act upon, all of that stuff, like your 5 Captain Planet powers that you have, let's say it vibrates like a wave up to the astral realm. And in this realm sees, I'm just giving you my thoughts on this. So this realm will see that wave or that pattern. And thus, it'll go back up the tree and come back down just like an electric current and bring you back down the corresponding pattern. Or the best it can through the laws of nature and the conditions that are in your physical environment. Do you understand that? Is that too complicated? So, when you listen to music, or let's take all the parts of a ritual. You know, first you have to relax and focus your mind and do some breathing exercises. And then you surround yourself with certain colors and symbols and smells and all this other stuff that correspond with a certain thing that your unconscious understands. And then whatever ritual you're doing, whether it's invocation, evocation, protection, even sigil magic, whatever it is, if you powered up all your little magic senses enough and you did it, it speaks to the unconscious, it vibrates a wave at the top I don't want to say the top, but vibrates a wave into the astral realm like a cymatic pattern. And then it comes back through. The messages from Son to the Father go through this Christ-like self, if you want to look at it religiously. Words like travel and environment follow from the diagram, but this is not the only reason why they are used. Subjectively, an astral trip has all the earmarks of a journey. It is only from the outside that the plane appears as a state of consciousness. Once awareness of the physical is lost, the inner landscape takes on reality tones, and it becomes environment in every sense of the word. The most familiar example of this is dreaming. Dreams are a function of the astral plane. Their chaotic nature springs from the fact that discrimination and control are usually relaxed in sleep. The unconscious forces are allowed to fully play. Illogical associations produce illogical dramas. And there's a subtle shade of difference between a sleeping dream and a trance state vision. Trance vision can produce scenes just as bizarre as any dream. The fluid feel, with one scene melting into another, is often there as well. But in a vision, the subject recognizes the strangeness. In a dream, this is simply accepted. So when you're in a dream, unless you're lucid, you don't really know how weird it is or strange it is. But if you're in a vision, and this is going to kind of help us lead into Tattwa vision and using the cards too. That's why I wanted to get into this book. Did I lose you guys? Sometimes you must first go left before you can go right. What's up, Dale? In view of this, there is a possibility that some readers may share the difficulty. Oh, hold on. I skipped a part. Let's see. Okay, for years I assumed everyone had access to the astral plane, even if they seldom went further than daydreaming. Then, to my utter astonishment, I discovered my wife could not make the simplest mental pictures. Is that really true, man? Can people not make, like, if I tell you to picture a pink elephant in your mind, do you not see it? Like, can you really not close your eyes and see a colored elephant in your mind's eye? That's hard for me to believe that some people actually can't do that, but I've heard the same thing, like some people can't do it. Outside of trance, which usually calls for special techniques, the degree of reality tone varies from person to person. But here again, practice leads to a distinct improvement. In the next chapter, there are a few simple exercises with which regular practice will speed this improvement, although many readers will not need them. For others, they are the first step towards using the astral doorways. There's a warning printed on the first page of this book, and by now you may be tempted to ignore it, because by now you can see the astral plane is a level of the mind. Western culture being what it is, all inner worlds are thought of as somehow unreal. They are only imagination and really not worth bothering about. They're only imagination, right? So they can't do you any harm. This sort of attitude is a very common mistake. It is also a very dangerous mistake if you intend to use the doorways. It's also a dangerous mistake to think that the inner realms aren't real, period. Especially if you're going to be doing things like practicing magic and all kinds of stuff, because your inner realms are running your life. All of the good and the bad shit that's happening, and as causing is the literal drop in the water most of the time that's causing all that stuff in your life. So yeah, it's plenty dangerous. The astral plane is certainly imagination, but I would disagree strongly with that word only. The inner worlds are real by any reasonable definition. Your psyche exists as a fact of life. It can't be measured by physical instruments any more than the physical world can be examined through psychological techniques. But it is there. You are aware of it, and you are influenced by it. It is the extent of this influence that makes the psyche I thought it said psycho. The psyche is so important. Its forces can produce an ulcer or channeled into enthusiasm for work. It can even produce money in the bank, which is mainly what everybody's worried about now. I've heard this on the other day. I don't know what show it was on, but this person was like, so what good does all this stuff do? Like, what does it do? And the person that was on the show was like, what do you mean, what does it do? It's like, well, how does this affect the real world? How practical is it? I was thinking, man, if this person only knew just how much this affects the real world and how practical it is, they wouldn't say that. These things are too familiar to be impressive, things like enthusiasm or money in the bank. But the picture becomes more dramatic when you consider the rise of Hitler. This insignificant, poorly educated little man was dominated by inner forces. They drove him to take over most of Europe. Energies powerful enough to produce such effects deserve respect. Energy is the key word of the psyche. It is only on the astral plane that these energies take on form, but the transformation does not always mean a decrease of power. And this is something to be borne in mind. In practical terms, the first problem you will meet is fascination. A whole new world opens up beyond the doorways. Yeah, that's a fact. It's like the first time you played a really cool video game, but it's way cooler than that. You have a natural urge to explore it as fully as possible. It's big enough to bring your novelty on every trip. Acres of the real estate are yours, probably far more than you own in the physical world. So you can explore the astral realm for years without once leaving your own demesne. All these factors add up to an interest which can easily get out of control. Your friends will notice the result before you do. They will say you have become moody or too dreamy, and they are right. For you are continually yielding to the temptation to wander on the astral plane, and while your attention is fixed there, the physical function suffers. At best, there is a decline in your efficiency. At worst, you are knocked down by a bus. Yeah. Because of this, astral journeys should be limited and, above all, clearly defined. You must set a beginning and an ending to each one. Set them distinctly and stick to them. There are routines associated with the use of the doorways which will help you here. Use them from the beginning. If you train yourself in good habits while working with the subjective astral, there is a lot less chance of trouble when you move into the objective trance sphere. But fascination is not the only danger. Any reader with experience of mental illness knows the strength of the psychic forces. On some levels of the astral, these forces are met head on. The effect on an unprepared personality can be staggering. Dream deaths have actually been recorded in the Philippines. Dream deaths. What the hell? I'll have to look into that. Is that a thing too? With dangers like this, you might now ask why anyone should venture deep into the astral at all. You will find part of the answer in Hunt's famous observation about Everest, because it is there. You will find another part in Carl Jung's writings about the creative imagination. And this is a technique strikingly similar to some forms of astral working, and one which leads to very considerable psychological benefits. And you will find a further part of the answer in the quotation which began in this chapter. To the old French magus Eliphas Levi, the astral plane held out the promise of remarkable power over the physical world. And that's what we want as humans. We want power over the physical world, don't we? Whether you believe that promise is a matter for yourself. By now, you should have some idea what the astral plane is all about. But before preparing you for your first trip, I'd better make some mention of your astral body. Earlier, I made the point that the astral and the etheric bodies are often confused. This is not entirely a question of semantics. The real astral body can do most things the etheric can do, and a lot of things it cannot. This is to say, the astral body can function on the physical plane. It can function on the physical plane. Before going any further into this, I'd better define my terms. The etheric body is something you are equipped with in the natural course of things. Although intangible, it belongs to the physical plane. Maybe that's why I couldn't go to space like I wanted, because people are like, man, I went to space in the astral world and went to Mars, and I was like, I was looking around, man, and everything is just like this real, but I was sleeping. It looked this, I mean, I was definitely in my etheric body, or the OBE state, you know. I think Monroe calls the etheric body like locale 10 or something. I have to go back, check it out. It is sometimes described as being composed of finer matter. Other schools of thought hold it as a grid of force, possibly similar to electricity. It is a mirror image of your physical body and usually coincides with it. But in certain circumstances, it can be projected out of the physical. And when this happens, it can carry your consciousness virtually anywhere on the physical plane. Jackpot. That's the one. But it cannot carry you into the inner worlds any more than your body can walk into a dream. This is what I've been trying to tell everybody. Everybody gets it all confused. Like, this makes way more sense to me. Your astral body, sometimes called your desire body or body of light, is different. First, its natural home is the left arm of the diagram that I showed you. Its component elements are mind stuff. They're made up of mind stuff. Its form is what you make it, consciously or unconsciously. In other words, your desire body can be anything you desire. The only limitation is your talent for shaping the astral forces. Should this talent be lacking, it will tend to build itself in conformity with your inner nature. Frequently, the results are startling. Often, they are far from flattering. For the average man, the astral body is used only on the astral plane, but the trained occultist or magician can use it on the physical as well. The nature of the astral body does not change. Rather, it is superimposed on the physical world. The technique for doing this bears no relation to astral journeys or operation of the doorways. It is given later as a curiosity, but you will almost certainly find it extremely difficult to master. The doorways, as you see, are easier. I wonder what he's talking about, the doorways. The doorways. Well, let's go to the chat. What does everybody have to say here? I do. Barefoot Hippie says, I do. I think in images. It's weird to me when others don't. Yeah, I don't see how that people can't. Do you think seeing in pictures is different from linear type thinking, right brain versus left brain? Genevieve is asking. I think so. I don't know. I would say for sure if you're just seeing black and white and like math equations in your head, then it's definitely left brain. But if you're like seeing colors and it's very vivid, I think in order for it to be vivid, like when you do like, I don't know, when you're really doing visualization, like picture the rose, smell the rose, touch the rose petals with your fingers, and you really start to pick up on the aesthetics of it, I think the right brain kicks in there. I have both. Haley says, I've had both happen to me. I get moments of clairsentience, which is like an instant knowing. And the most intense times, it's words, not pictures. And the things were happening, and I found out before or during without my being told the type of thing. That's when it's words and then pictures take over. Yeah. Dale says, I guess I think in both as well, but mostly pictures. Or do the words lead to the pictures? Well, here's the thing. If you could see the picture in your head, I don't mean like if you can close your eyes and you can actually see the color of, like, I don't know, think about like a banana. Because I just ate a banana. If you can see in your imagination like the yellow of it, or you can almost feel it, touch it, see it, all that stuff, then you don't have that problem. My alchemical romance. What's good, Joe? Glad to catch you live, bro. Love your art. Yeah, it's good to see you, brother. Good to see you. All right, so chapter 2, A Pathway to the Doors. Quote, do not say, oh, it's only imagination. The time to test that is later on. Aleister Crowley, Magic in Theory and Practice. In the advertising business, many men and women are employed as visualizers. Such jobs are generally well paid, and most of those who hold them have a talent for design and graphics. But basically, they earn their salaries through an ability to see clearly in their minds how a finished advertisement will look. With the exception of a few people like my wife, the ability to create mental pictures is widespread. Not so the ability to see them clearly, though. Most daydreams are fragile things. They are flat and hazy, like an out-of-focus photograph. Their colors are anemic pastels. This is a situation you'll have to change if you want to make a reasonable exploration of the astral realm. Your mental pictures must become crisp and clear. Their colors must be vital and alive. Yeah, I remember when I was first getting into magic too, like when we were doing the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, I had a tutor at the time. And he sent me a pamphlet, and I have these also in the audio downloads where I train what I call the magical eye. You can get that on the Fringe FM shop or the Patreon store. But eventually you'll train that brain so that when you do go to do like a ritual or whatever, and let's say you draw your circle, you don't want to imagine, well, I'm just drawing a circle. You know, you really want to draw it and actually see the light coming from your finger and be specific, like it's the light or the blue flame from a stove when you first light it. That's the kind of light you're drawing. And you want to focus on making sure that you can see that, even feel it if it's hot or whatever. And the better that you can train this mind, the better you can do magic, so to speak, or ritual or ceremonial magic. So you're stacking all this stuff to stimulate the senses, to speak to your unconscious. But on top of that, you're also honing in your ability to astrally see what you need to make as well. And whether you believe it or not, it has, I don't care if you believe it, because it's one of the two things I know is real. It has a remarkable effect on materializing things into your reality. Okay. Anyways. So some people see hazy daydreams, is what he's saying. This is a situation you'll have to change if you want to make a reasonable exploration of the astral plane. Your mental pictures must become crisp and clear, and their colors must be vital and alive. And when this is achieved, you must go further. You must develop the ability to imagine sounds and smells, tastes and sensations. Bingo. The better you can do this, the more rewarding will your trips become. It is also important to develop concentration. Use of the doorways calls for the ability to keep your mind fixed on one thing for a given time. The period is seldom short, so without concentration, the doorways remain closed. It is perfectly possible to develop concentration and visualization abilities at the same time. Now, both tend to grow out of the exercises given in the next chapter, but the ability to concentrate is such a worthwhile talent in every walk of life that I intend to give some hints on its separate development. Despite the fact that these are not directly related to astral operations, you will find it very useful to train yourself in these techniques before moving on to any visualization exercises. Interesting. And if you need, like I said, if you need help with this kind of thing, I have voice-guided visualizations that I have for download. So, like, what I used to do is I would, like, say I picture a rose. I already mentioned a rose. Once you get good at a rose, then you can get good at something else. So first, if you can actually see the details of a rose, one that you can create in your mind, you could look at one in the store or something and then recreate it. But if you can create one in your mind and see the details of the petal, the thin, how it curves, all the details of the rose, how it flowers out, you can smell it without it being there, and you actually start to smell it. You can imagine touching the petals and how fragile and delicate they are. Or imagine running your fingers over the stem of the rose real slow so you can feel the thorns. After you do this long enough and you just keep detailing everything, it starts to become real. And this is like the astral trying to manifest into the physical, even though it's not going to. The blueprint gets more dense in the astral realm as you're doing this. And I can go on and on. But you should switch it up too. Like in the audio downloads, I do flowers. I have it where you change to someone's face and certain things that make you feel certain things when you see something on someone's face. Yeah. But also the tattoo cards, before we get into scrying, which I think he's going to try to talk about in this book as well. They're built in. They have flashing colors on them. Now you can make your own, but I already have a deck pre-made that if you go get it, it has all the Tattoo Vision cards on there with the Golden Dawn flashing colors to the cards. Actually, I'm not going to call it the Golden Dawn card because these tattoo cards, I think the Golden Dawn got their colors for the elements. Matter of fact, yeah, I'm right about this. So when you pick up a book on the Golden Dawn or look at Golden Dawn magic and you wonder, well, why is, air purple and yellow and fire is like this scarlet and green, and they kind of, it corresponds all the way throughout as you study magic, planets and everything. They borrowed those colors from the Eastern Tatwas cards. That's where they originally got them because they work. Those flashing colors are used as doorways for scrying. They're also used to enhance that ability in your mind. They're also used to stimulate flashing effects when you look at them. So what I like to tell people to do when they play around with tattoo cards is get a regular deck of tattoo cards, light some candles where the light flanks the card so you can focus on the color, or put it in front of a white sheet of paper. Use the flashing colors first, and then just see how effective that is at stimulating this part of your mind. And then get some regular tattoo cards that have like white backs or black backs. Same thing. These work just as good, but you'll see the difference in the effect. Right. Shit, we got to take a radio station break. So when we come back here live on the Fringe FM, we're going to get into some of his methods on how to train your mind so that you can get into the astral light a little better. And this, the name of this book we're reading, if you want to go check it out, page 13. What the hell is the name of this book? Astral Doorways by J.H. Brennan, and he has the Tatwa symbols on the front of the book. It's hard to find a good book on this stuff too, honestly. I have some I can recommend, but shut up. Quit talking, Joe. Anyways, we'll be right back. Three, 4 minutes here.
My name is Jake. I'm from Billings, Montana, and I am a void walker.
Hey, Joe Root. Thanks for lighting the void. This is Janine in the bluegrass of Kentucky, and I am a void walker.
What's up, guys? This is Damien from San Marcos, Texas, and I'm a void walker. I listen to the show to keep myself aligned with the world.
Hi, this is Laura, aka Laura Lavender. I'm from Las Vegas, and I listen to Lighting the Void because it helps me understand some of the strangest experiences I've had. So thanks for all that you do and for always being there for us, Joe.
You are listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Hey, this is country music singer and void walker Jason Benoit, and when I need my fix on the world of magic and the capabilities of the human consciousness, I listen to Joe Roop right here on Lighting the Void Radio.
This is Malorcas 45, fan of the Fridge FM, challenging everyone to open their mind's eye. Listen to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop to gain precision for your third eye vision.
In your face, all over the place. We're online 24/7. 24/7. You're listening to the hottest internet station.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the
right seat. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Look through your children's eyes to see the true magic of a forest. It's a storybook world for them. You look and see a tree. They see the wrinkled face of a wizard with arms outstretched to the sky. They see treasure in pebbles. They see a windy path that could lead to adventure. And they see you, their fearless guide through this fascinating world.
Find a forest near you and start exploring at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Have you ever wondered, what do the stars say for me? Or, will the next month or the next year be more favorable? How about, are our two signs compatible? Each month, at the new moon, you can ask these questions live with me, your astrologer psychic, Mary DeCina, along with host of Lighting the Void, Joe Root. Join us at the new moon for Cosmic Conditions. We look forward to working with your energy.
Every new moon at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here on Fringe FM. Bumper stickers are a fun side hustle with low-cost investment that has built-in advertising to attract local customers in parking lots, rallies, gatherings, conventions, venues, and more. You could potentially sell these bumper stickers on consignment to local businesses, tattoo parlors, head shops, or any other independently owned store that might gear toward the fringe. Bumper stickers are great gift-giving ideas for friends and family. Also, a way to wake up your fellow travelers on the path without having to waste energy in tiresome debates. No car? No problem. Bumper stickers will stick to just about anything with a semi-smooth surface. Go to www.justbsme.com and get your bumper stickers today.
The following message may be decoded with your magic decoder.
welcome back to Lighting the Void Radio here live on Fringe FM. The call-in number is 501-777-5631. Don't forget, you can always call in and chime in. I'd love to hear your voice. It makes me feel less alone when I can hear a voice. The internet doesn't make me feel less alone. It makes me feel more alone. There's only two things that'll make me happy right now. If you call in and talk to me about this book or what we're talking about, or if you find me on Bungie and play Destiny with me, or supporting the Fringe FM, please do so at thefringe.fm. Also want to thank justbsme.com for continuing to sponsor the station as they've done so. Bumper stickers are still a powerful thing, and you can run your own business with those things, man. Just go find the stuff that you like or have him make you some, and he's got pretty good wholesale prices on there. Go check him out at justbsme.com. All right. So back to the nitty gritty. I think that most of us feel that we can. What's up, typical skeptic? What's up, brother? Most of us feel that we can concentrate pretty well, I think. Dale Flint says, it's drugs. It's all drugs. Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Are you saying that it's drugs? Is that why people can't concentrate very well? I would agree on that. Let's see. You streaming me on your TikTok, brother? Thanks. All right. So you probably feel you can concentrate quite well. A lot of people do. But there is, however, a simple test to help you find out how you rate. Remember, concentration is the ability to keep your mind fixed on one thing to the exclusion of all other thoughts. Now try this test. Pick a comfortable chair in a quiet surroundings where you're unlikely to be disturbed. Sit back, relax, and close your eyes. Now mentally begin to count, and you must do nothing else but count. Your whole attention must be on the numbers. Observe yourself very carefully as you try this test. The instant any outside thoughts come into your mind, stop counting. How did you score? And be honest with yourself. With most people, counting stops at 4 or 5. Only a few rare individuals can get as high as 10 before an outside thought becomes in. Anything beyond 15 or 20 seems completely impossible. The most common trap is some thought such as, this is too easy. But once the thought arises, you've stopped concentrating on your test. Another subtle trap arises with the thought, how well am I doing? Yeah, that's usually what people do. They start wondering if they're doing good. Or how do I compare to others? If you've avoided both, chances are you succumb to boredom. Your concentration was broken by the thought, well, this is a silly test anyways. Why am I doing this? Well, yeah, that's kind of true. I don't need to do it to prove I can concentrate. Yet the simple fact is, few people can concentrate fully even for 5 minutes at a time. If they could, the average score in this test would be well up in the hundreds. Oriental yogis develop the ability to hold one thought in their mind for hours on end. You will not need to go that far for present purposes. But unless your concentration is far above average for the West, you will have to do something about improving it before you can make much of use of the doorways. A good way to start is to set aside a period for practice every day. This not need and, in fact, should not be more than 15 minutes. But regularity of practice is absolutely vital. Concentration is a habit. You know what they do to you in the Golden Dawn? So, in the Golden Dawn, when you first start getting into ceremonial magic and you're going through the neophyte stuff, they have you focused on a fixed point. So you could draw it, or you could just put a little point up with a circle around it on the wall or something. And it's the most boring thing in the world. But you have to see if you could focus. How long can you focus on that point? And you're allowed to think, but only about that point and about how it relates to the space around it and things like that. So a good way to start is to set aside a period of time, like he's saying. Concentration is a habit, and the only way to develop a habit is to keep at it. It will help to form the habit if you practice at the same time every day. And try not to fool yourself that this is impossible because of business or social commitments. Set your alarm clock 15 minutes earlier and use this time to practice. Better concentration will more than make up for the sleep you lose. There's another reason for choosing early mornings to practice. Your mind will put up massive resistance to training, and you'll fill yourself with a wealth of reasons why you should give your concentration period a miss just this one time. This resistance is a good deal harder to fight in the evenings when you're tired than in the mornings when you're fresh. And if you happen to be the first member of your family out of bed, there's obviously less chance that you'll be disturbed by others. The same holds good for other sources of disturbances such as phone calls. So once you got your time in place, the next thing you need to do is learn to relax. And despite the common picture of straining intensity and furrowed brows, concentration comes easiest in a relaxed state. That's a fact. Yeah. If you shouldn't have to like really focus, like do some like mental gymnastics to be able to concentrate on something. Just relax. You're setting out on a mental exercise and want no distractions from your body, so learn to relax. If you've got a headache, take an aspirin. If you're uncomfortable, take time to get comfortable. Then let your muscles relax. Your body won't disturb you if it is limp. And afterwards, you'll finish the exercise feeling fresh. At first, your best course is to take a subject and concentrate on the train of thought arising from it. Don't force anything. And hold the subject in your mind and let your thoughts revolve around it. This is a form of meditation, and the information that arises can actually be useful in itself. But you'll soon find that, like the counting test, this exercise is not nearly so easy as it sounds. Other thoughts creep in, disturbances occur, and this happens to everyone at first and should not worry about it, and it should not worry you. It is a sound idea to make a written note of each break in the train of thought as it occurs. A simple trick under headings such as mind wandering or noises or other breaks will do. And such a record gives you a basis for future comparison. It does sound boring as hell though, don't it? But it's necessary. It will mean you can tell at a glance how your concentration has improved as the weeks go by. Do not expect quick results. You are, to put it bluntly, in the same position as a fat and flabby businessman starting out on a muscle building course. The mental muscles take just as much time to develop. But as the weeks go by, you will notice an improvement, and eventually you'll be able to get through the entire 15-minute period with very few breaks, or none at all. At this stage, increase the time allowed to 20 minutes and move on to your first visualization exercise. Damn, so he doesn't even want you to like start visualizing anything until you can focus on one thing for 20 minutes. That's pretty hardcore, dude. It is best to start with something simple for the first 2 weeks. Stick to basic geometrical shapes such as a square, a circle, or a triangle. Pick one. Shut your eyes and try to picture it in your mind. Again, don't try to force yourself, and don't despair if things are slow at first. Try drawing the shape on a piece of paper beforehand and looking at it just before you close your eyes. Okay. I want you conspiracy folk, to think about this. So, our childlike energy is not only mentioned in religion, but it's also mentioned in magic and mysticism as one of the most important things. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's just about being playful and kind and open to the adventures of life instead of giving into fear or comparing yourself to others or worrying about what mommy and daddy and your peer group think? No, that stuff is definitely a part of it. But one of the bigger parts of the thing that you have to get back is that astral light that you were born with. You know, when you were born, your eyes were shiny and like awesome. And I do believe that those healthy looking eyes that you had when you were a baby are the exact reflection of your inner world. So your inner eye and mind's eye was that healthy too. I mean, it's hard for people to do this back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Nowadays, you know what I'm about to say. I mean, we're so stimulated by everything. I think this is vital. So towards the end of the second week, when you've made some progress in visualizing single shapes, try visualizing two at once. And as you did during your concentration exercises, make a note of any special difficulties. Again, these notes will be useful as a record. Keep working with this exercise each day until you're proficient. And by this, I mean the mental picture of, let's say, the circles comes to you quickly, clearly, and easily. It is important that you see only what you want to see. And if the circle becomes distorted, moves about, increases or decreases in size while you're watching it with your mental eye, then you have not yet obtained sufficient control of your mind. Should this exercise take more than a month of regular daily practice, it may be that you're one of these rare individuals who experience the most difficulty with simple shapes. In that case, the answer is to move on to the next exercise and return to geometrical figures at a later date. Under no circumstance should you attempt to increase the 20-minute period. To do so will not mean faster progress. These exercises, simple as they are, represent your first deliberate contact with the astral plane. You will reap no benefits from driving yourself. Work regularly at your own rate. There's lots of time. Don't spend less than 2 weeks on any exercise, no matter how easy you find it. But don't worry if you have to spend more than 2 weeks. Your next exercise may seem a big step from simple geometrical figures, but there is every chance you will actually find it easier. This is partially because of the practice you had with the first one, and particularly because the new subject is more familiar. Sit down and relax, just like you did before, and take a good look around the room, then shut your eyes and try to visualize it. And after a minute or so, open your eyes again and check on the accuracy of your mental picture. That's a pretty neat exercise, actually. So if you look around the room, like everything that you see, and then shut your eyes, and then see if you can see the exact same things. This will probably be very easy, but you'll be surprised at how much you forget. Even at first, to visualize the broad outline of things. But you must try to do more than this. You must attempt to fill in the various details. There's no need to hurry, no need to force yourself. The details will come in their own time. Initially, it will be enough to visualize just that part of the room you could see before you shut your eyes. And work at this until you have filled in the finer details, including the colors. And once you've managed this, imagine yourself walking all around the room, noting details as you go along. Spend a few of your exercise periods doing this in one direction only. That is to say, imagine yourself starting at the door and circling the room in a clockwise direction until you are back at the door. And afterwards, check your visualization by doing the same physically. And he goes on to talk about trainings and all kinds of stuff, right? But I'll say this, like, what are you saying? Did you guys lose focus on the show? You're talking about pooping. Starseed Awakening, not me. I poop in less than 1 minute, and I'm a vegan. What the hell? You see what I mean? The concentration goes away. All right. So we get the exercises and stuff. If you want to know more, you can grab this book. I think it's free. But eventually you'll get into doing the room, geometrical shapes, then three-dimensional shapes. But he gets into protection next. So I'm going to skip all that because I think you guys get it. Holy hell. Okay. So, the ultimate protection. So you wouldn't think that learning to do this stuff that you would need protection, but the fact is that this is where things get a little weird. As you start scrying and doing things like this, you are going to run into, I don't know how to say this without sounding weird. You're going to run into things that aren't supposed to be there. Like things will start coming out of nowhere. Which I probably shouldn't even talk about this, but it'll freak you out later if you start getting really good at this. Like, let's say a shadow figure or a blob or something, and you're like, I was concentrating. I don't know where the hell this thing came from as you're visualizing. So I think it's important that, I don't know what the hell's wrong with my voice today. It must be an attack of some kind, right? I'm just kidding. But yeah, I'll talk about that later because I don't want to freak you out. Let's talk about protection. So, O nobly born, these realms are not come from somewhere outside thyself. They come from within the 4 divisions of your heart, which including its center make the 5 directions. They issue from within there and shine upon thee. The deities, too, are not from somewhere else. They exist from eternity within the faculties of thine own intellect. Know them to be of that nature. Do you guys know where that's from? Where that comes from? That is a quote from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Magic is like a diamond in a rubbish tip. You can certainly find something of value in the subject, but before you reach it, you will come across a lot of junk. Facing me as I write are a score of books packed full of useless spells and conjurations. They promise the world and deliver nothing. There's a hint of mania about them. The medieval grimoires especially seem to have been composed exclusively by psychopaths. The trouble with this is a lot of people miss the diamond for the rubbish, or worse still, confuse the two. Magic is an inner science, an occult science, an ancient system of psychology. Viewed in this light, result will follow. There is some evidence suggesting a parallelism between psychic processes and physical events. So a possibility exists that magic can influence the physical world. But the devil won't appear to build cathedrals. No spell will produce a rain of gold, and these things are fairy tales, not magic. I'm making this point because your ideas about magic have almost certainly been conditioned by fairy tales. You grow up to decide, regretfully, that magic will not work. And when an occultist claims magical results are possible, you require that he proves it within your fairy tale framework. God, that's such a good point. I wish I could say things like that good. He did take time to write it, though. But if proof is forthcoming, you can be sure you are watching clever conjuring, not magic. For centuries, the real magical techniques have been closely guarded secrets. And the reason for this is the same reason that a warning has been printed at the beginning of this book. The techniques are dangerous. By and large, the secrets are well kept, but no system of security is completely watertight. Over the years, some things leaked out or were discovered independently. Hypnosis is one example. The psychological application of alchemy is another. These subjects, along with others such as telepathy, precognition, and clairvoyance, are intelligently studied outside occult fraternities. Others are known only from partial leakage. Now, remember, he wrote this in the 70s. I think the Golden Dawn brick and all that material didn't come out until the 80s, if I'm correct on that. So, these subjects, along with others, such as telepathy, precognition, and clairvoyance and all that stuff, have been overshadowed with superstition. When did you last walk under a ladder without feeling uncomfortable? Hell, that one dates back to ancient Egypt. Circumstances exist where it is unwise to break a triangle. You know the ladder forms a triangle with the wall and ground. You do not know why it should be unlucky to break the triangle, you just know it is. But you tend to avoid it just the same. Should you take your courage in your hands and walk under the ladder, nothing much will happen. Even a paint pot falling on your head is unlikely. You might reasonably conclude that the superstition about walking under ladders is nonsense, and you would be right. But should you also conclude the ancient Egyptian priests were fools, you would be wrong. Because in certain occult ceremonies, the breaking of a triangle can lead to disaster. All this may seem a far cry from psychological experiments with the astral doorways, but it is not. For the only people who have so far studied this field in any depth are the occultists, and the only techniques of protection for the astral voyager are occult techniques. Let us now examine one of them. It was developed, so far as I know, by the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn in the last century. It is called the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram. And then he goes through that ritual. And I'm not going to go through it here. I have all the rituals on audio download in all different forms. Christian, Egyptian, Latin, the original Golden Dawn one, all that stuff. You can look it up too. But basically it's the ritual it's the first ritual you learn. It's the archangels, the pentagrams, and the circle, bringing the hexagram into the pentagram, the microcosm into the macrocosm into the microcosm, kind of thing. The pentagram drawn with a single point upwards denotes the domination of spirit over the four elements, and the six-rayed star, the Star of David, or the holy hexagram, shows spiritual consciousness intermingled with individual personality. Academic analysis of the symbols is unimportant. Experience will show their automatic appeal to your unconscious mind. They stand for psychic realities that and their use on the astral plane will call up the realities behind them. It may be as well now to refer back to the diagrams in Chapter 1. The astral plane is a plastic medium shaped by underlying forces in the psyche. If during an astral trip you come across an unpleasant apparition, remember that its form is pure imagination, but the force behind it is real enough on a mental level. If you decide to make use of the symbols, either to test your visions or protect yourself from them, you are simply building an astral form for positive psychic forces to use. It is the underlying forces and not the form which will protect you. And this leads me to a very important point. The symbols are useful in an emergency, but it would obviously be better to make sure emergencies do not arise. This is why you should do the rituals before you start traveling in the astral realm. But it would obviously be better to make sure emergencies do not arise, and this is your ultimate protection, and you can only achieve it by self-knowledge. I cannot overstress this point. If you run into something nasty on the astral plane, it is because something nasty already exists in your mind. The astral plane does nothing more than give it form. It is this fact that underlies all magical instruction about purity of motive, emotional control, and self-awareness. The yogi who has achieved perfect self-control can venture freely on the astral. The saint who has spent years purifying his soul will meet no dangers there as well. Fortunately, few of us carry the seeds of serious psychosis. Maybe in the 70s, I don't know about now. But if they are there in your mind, they will flower during the astral experiments. Consequently, it is best to give yourself a really searching self-examination before experiments are attempted. Observe yourself closely, ruthlessly. Examine your fears and your aversions, your emotions and your moods. If you're all over the place, then your astral ventures are going to be all over the place. Discover the reasons for them and learn to control them. This may be the most difficult job you will ever attempt. It will certainly be the most worthwhile. There are various ways of going about this. You could, and the suggestion is made quite seriously, undergo full psychoanalysis, preferably with a Jungian psychiatrist. The drawback here is time and cost, but at least you can be sure of the results. If this course is completely out of the question, another possibility is to make up magic mirrors, as suggested by Franz Barden. These are mirrors in the figurative sense, but mirrors of your soul. Take a notebook and divide each page into 2 columns. Head one of these with the words black mirror and the other with the words white mirror. Each day, make at least one entry under each heading. Under black should go all of those negative characteristics you notice in yourself. Are you mean, for instance, or cowardice, or fearful? Or are you finding yourself envious or jealous of other people? Under white should go the positive characteristics: devotion, loyalty, honesty, courage, intelligence. The testing time will come when you are convinced both columns are full. This is the time to keep working with your mirrors, because that is the time your unconscious strengths and weaknesses will begin to come out. Another useful approach is dream analysis. The problem here is how to catch your dream. Again, get a notebook and pencil. These are important tools. Leave them at your bedside and note your dreams immediately after waking. There is, unfortunately, no substitute for immediate action. The notes should be the very first thing you do after waking. They must be made before getting out of bed, even before rubbing the sleep from your eyes or stretching your body. This calls for considerable willpower, but I know of no other way. Dreams evaporate within seconds. Scientists are convinced we have numerous dreams every night. We remember perhaps 1 or 2 a week. Should you still find difficulty in remembering your dreams, even with this rigorous routine, try visualizing the rising sun the moment you wake up. This is an odd psychological trick that often helps recall. And having caught your dreams, don't waste time with pseudo-occult books about interpretation. Your dream is your own, and only you can see the meaning of it. Even an experienced psychologist can only point the way towards this. Examine the dream situations and ask yourself what they mean to you. Give your intuition full play here and face up to the results. Let's be honest with each other. How many of us have been keeping a dream journal, like, consistently? Have I listened to the Monroe Institute Explorer series? Yeah, I have. I've played it on the show and talked about it. Is communication with demons in Black Mirrors? I don't know. Epsom salt baths every day for everyone during the storm of chaos. Yeah, that stuff does help. I never did that stuff until I dated this girl that was really into that stuff, and they bought me some salts and stuff like that. And I took baths in them. Pink Himalayan salt. It really helped. I like the idea of black mirror and white mirror. Yeah, it's easier, right? All right, here we go. I don't know how much time we got left, so I'm going to see what his methods are here. The elemental doorways. The astral light has been in the past and may in the future be verified by direct visual experience. Israel Regardie, The Tree of Life. During the early months of 1969, I conducted a series of experiments with the elemental doorways to the astral plane. The situation leading up to these experiments was curious. My wife and I are tenants of a wing to a Georgian mansion in Ireland. The immediate estate extends for several hundred acres. On this estate are 2 monuments of considerable historical interest. The first is the ruin of a medieval church set in a little wood close to the main house. Records show this church, which is of Norman design, was founded in 1210. That sounds cool. I wouldn't want to be in Ireland though. It's too damn cold. A small graveyard attached remained in use up to the end of the 19th century. The second, about a mile walk from the house and located on the highest ground in the estate, It's a prehistoric monolith surrounded by a well-preserved wrath. Experts have dated the monument at the Bronze Age. The earthwork of the ring fort is circular to a tolerance of a foot or so, while the granite monolith, which stands more than 20 feet high and weighs an estimated 12 tons, is set in the exact mathematical center. There are 2 breaks in the earthwork, roughly due east and west, and besides the western gap is a hawthorn tree, the traditional fairy thorn of Ireland. Inside this enclosure, the ground slopes upwards towards the center, rather like an inverted saucer. Immediately beneath the standing stone is a cist grave 8 feet long and just under 4 foot deep. Archaeological excavations were carried out on this site in 1912. These unearthed evidence of human remains in the grave and a charcoal layer extending about 50 feet in radius from the central stone. There was no evidence that the wrath had ever been used, and temporarily as a residence. Despite the term ring fort, there is little likelihood that the site had any military significance either. It may originally have been intended as an elaborate monument to some tribal chieftain, but the bones found in the grave seem like those of a woman. So the most likely explanation is that the wrath was put to a religious use. As often happens with pre-Christian sites, the wrath became a focus for local superstition. You might, for instance, walk 3 times around the stone to have a wish granted, or if you happen to be a single female, you could pin some offering to the fairy thorn to secure a husband. Within living memory, a woman, inevitably reputed to have been a witch, was killed by the little people at the wrath. She went there to gather firewood and broke some branches from the thorn. The tree reacted murderously, for she was found dead on the spot next morning. Yeah, they killed her. That basically is what he's saying. Today, most of the old superstitions have died too, but neither archaeology nor folklore can account for the distinctive atmosphere that remains. My wife, who is mediumistic, cannot spend more than 5 minutes inside the earthwork ring. She becomes nervous and uncomfortable. Eventually, she has to leave. Both cattle and sheep, which often graze in the surrounding fields, tend to avoid the site too, although not completely. The common explanation is bitter grass. But bitter grass does not explain the discomfort cats appear to feel in this area as well. The aura of the place is not consistent. At times, there is no atmosphere at all. My own observations indicate a buildup of force around the old solar festivals, the equinoxes, and the solstices. None of this is to suggest the wrath exudes evil. Although very powerful at its peak, the force seems elemental. The force does. Such force exists on many ancient sites. They may not be objective, but they are real. Sensitive people react to them. During Christmas week of 1968, my wife and I entertained... Did you hear that? Anyways, sorry. During the Christmas week of 1968, my wife and I entertained friends from Northern Ireland. One evening, the discussion turned to the occult. Someone suggested a group journey to the Astral, and I agreed. The technique used was that of the Kabbalistic pathworking. This is something I will deal with later since it has no relevance at present. I love doing pathworkings. That's what I did when I have some pathworkings in those audio downloads too, but basically someone takes you on a trip using occult symbols and all kinds of stuff, and you use your imagination and you go on this trip. This is something I will deal with later, he says. The trip went smoothly, and immediately afterwards, 2 of the party took a moonlight stroll to the Wrath. Early in the new year, a young Dutch couple, Nick and Bea van Vliet, visited the estate. Since trips to its monuments are almost compulsory, we found ourselves at the Wrath. The Van Vliet's interest was not entirely historical, and like many of their fellow countrymen, they had a mystical turn of mind. Both were very much aware of the atmosphere of the Wrath, which was quite potent at the time. I was bombarded with questions about the site. Partly in self-defense, I suggested psychometry. Psychometry is a spiritualistic curiosity. It involves picking up vibrations from objects. By this means, past associations with a given object can be described by a sensitive. Nick Van Vliet offered to try psychometry on the granite monolith. He climbed the metal protective fence and stood embracing the huge stone with his forehead pressed against it. Very shortly, he began to describe the mental pictures which arose. I'm not much impressed by theories involving mysterious vibrations, but I know from experience in the psychometry can work, sometimes with spectacular success. The degree of success in this case was spectacular, although not in the way we expected. Instead of picking up prehistoric memories, Nick Van Vliet started to describe visions of a countryside, and for a moment I could not think why the scenes were so hauntingly familiar. Then I realized he was describing details of the astral journey my guest and I had undertaken at Christmas. Holy shit. It was an eerie situation, and it became more so. Bea Van Vliet, standing beside me outside the metal fence, whispered further details of the journey into my ear. She felt, picking them up telepathically from her husband. Van Vliet was a skilled professional visualizer. His wife, apart from her telepathic sensitivity, also showed considerable natural talent in this direction. In view of the startling experience at the Wrath, I asked them to cooperate in a series of experiments, and they agreed, and the first experiment took place soon after. The initial experience was a catastrophe. We adopted the Kabbalistic method. Both the Van Vliets reacted by being violently and physically ill. 2 further attempts using the same technique produced similar unfortunate results. To their credit, neither allowed this unhappy introduction to dampen their enthusiasm. A little later in the evening, they were quite prepared to attempt the elemental doorways. There are 5 basic elemental doorways to the astral plane. They were developed or discovered in the Orient and introduced to the West along with a complementary collection of doctrines by the Golden Dawn. They are usually referred to in occult literature as the tattvas or tattva symbols. In the original Hindu terminology, these symbols are named Akasa, Vayu, Tehas, Apas, and Prithivi. Each one is associated with an alchemical element and equate in the order given to ether or spirit, air, fire, water, and earth. I propose to stick to the Western terms as being easier to remember. If you will now refer to the figures of the 4 symbols given in the outline. Your first step towards using the doorways is to make a set of cards, or get a set from Fringe.fm, the flashing set, preferably. A convenient size is 3 to 4 inches square, and you need a whiteboard to be used too. Draw 1 symbol on each card, leaving the back blank. When this is done, the symbol should be colored as follows. Ether is black or indigo, fire is red or scarlet, air is blue, water is silver, and earth is yellow. So I'll show you guys these tattva symbols, but if you want to see them, you could go to the Fringe.fm shop and you'll see them there too. But for the record, I had no idea that this book was going to use tattva symbols. I just saw the pictures on the front, but here they are. You see them? Am I getting into this too early? Is Barefoot Hippie still here? Did we not sell enough decks? Because I want to do this stuff together. And if you don't have to get my decks, you can make your own cards too, like the Golden Dawns did. They made their own cards, or you can buy a deck from somewhere else. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me one bit. So it is important that the colors are strong and brilliant, so watercolors are virtually useless for the job. Poster paints are a little better, but not much. The most successful cards are done in oils or made by cutting colored papers to shape and sticking them down. If available, a transparent film covering the card heightens the effect and protects the surface. And choosing the correct shades, strength and brilliancy are again the guidelines. A glaring pillar box red will be effective in the fire triangle. A strong sky blue works well in the air disc. black and silver should be present, no difficulties. For the earth square, a bright light yellow should be chosen in preference to the mustard hues. Yeah, it's basically flashing colors is what it is. You can buy, here, let me see if I can show you guys this a little better. Because that's a book from the 1970s, right? Who wants to see that? Even though I give the guy props for writing a book about tatwas in the 70s, there's only like one other good book on tattwa methods that I found a long time ago. Let's see. See if I can do this. All the rest. And see, these are how the Golden Dawn made them. You see how that's the Earth. I'm sorry, that's Akash, not Earth. This is actually Earth. You got water, not you got air, fire. I know it looks weird because I have this color gradient, but just look up the Golden Dawn Tattoo cards. But you can also get them with solid whites and blacks too. And then I have pictures of what the actual deck looks like and stuff too. Thanks to one of our listeners. I hope I got you pegged right. Yeah. What are you guys doing with the black feather? Y'all been talking about black feathers a lot. I have to go back and look in the chat. Anyways, I don't want to get too deep into this tonight, but maybe tomorrow night we'll get a little deeper into it. Because if you're watching the video, we could do something. See, I've always wondered if you could do this, like, say you didn't buy the deck and you could do like digital downloads and just look at it on your phone. But there's something about, to me, like looking at it in a mirror, you know, or in a phone. It just don't feel right. Like having the cards is better to me. Do they hypnotize you? Now, you pretty much hypnotize yourself, but it's a method for what's called scrying, and the spirit vision is what the Golden Dawn called it. So I'll give you an example. Let's say, here's this one. There's several methods you can use. And you can make up your own too, but there's some pretty solid methods that people use. But let's say you're looking at the Tejas symbol or fire symbol here. If you focus at it long enough, now you can imagine this with a white or black background too, but I use the flashing colors because it's more intensive for certain exercises. For instance, if you focus on it long enough, what you'll start to see, and I'm talking about really concentrate like he's talking about, what you'll start to see is a little, I can't outline it because of my mouth, but you see how around the edge of the triangle, it starts to flash, almost as if you can see it like a light. And that's because of the flashing colors. And so if you focus on it long enough, and I mean really focus on it, even try not to blink. I mean, have you guys ever stared at something long enough where stuff starts disappearing and you're around it? So you focus on it long enough and then shut your eyes. And once you shut your eyes, a green triangle will appear and the background will be red or purple. It's crazy. You'll see it. It'll be totally opposite. It'll flash. It's just a trick of the eye. But what the Golden Dawn is they developed methods using these tattoo cards. So it's a little bit of Carl Jung, active imagination, and some of these methods that we'll go through. And then I have a course on this that's coming out too that's really kind of more extensive, but you can still go through the basic methods and still do it. But what will happen is once you see that figure, then you're instructed to project your consciousness through the shape. So a lot of people think, well, do I actually try to project myself through the shape? Well, you have to understand reality and the astral and all this stuff as a whole. It's really not separate from you anyways. So you astrally project through the shape and then you record the visions that you see. But you don't just jump in and look at the triangle and do it and start recording. You have to really focus on it, really relax, get in almost like a trance-like state, move through the vision of the shape, and then just observe, because that's what we do. We're good observers. We're humans. And then write down your observations. Here's another thing that happens too. These are doorways that the Golden Dawn used to astral travel or to magically travel. So in their mind, using these symbols not only corresponded with the visions, and this is what began to happen. The symbols themselves corresponded with visions that they were having, or places on the tree of life that they would go to. They also would run into entities in the astral realm. And so there's many methods that you develop, and this is more like adept stuff, but there's many things that you develop and learn to test the visions that you see. So you could be totally focused, floating. Let's say, as an example, you move into the Tejas, the triangle, and you start to see this vision. And this vision unfolds like a play in your mind almost. And it's all pretty. And let's say you see Michael the Archangel, or let's say you see whatever your mind is going to bring to you, whatever it brings. Okay? And then all of a sudden, like this will happen, and it's freaky, man. All of a sudden, some freaky thing shows up in your mind. Well, shit, how'd that get there? Or some entity or something shows up in your mind. How'd that get there? You shouldn't question it, really, as you go through it. How did it get there or whatever? You just test it. And so they have methods of testing what they call spirits. And eventually you'll start doing this in your dreams and your lucid dreams and the outer body states, because you'll see stuff there too. And you'll realize that these methods that these magicians use to test things work. Now, if you're a Christian, then you know the way to test spirits or visions, right? And that way works across the board, believe it or not, because I've done that too. You can hypnotize yourself, Genevieve. Another book, I'll tell you guys another book too. If you want to get books on this stuff, like if you're scared of it or if you're worried about it or whatever, if you want to get some books on it, I have the best, other than this book, one of the best books you can get other than the Golden Dawn on it is, I'll give you the name of it here in just a second. Where the hell did it go? The Tattwa cards. Just type in Tattwa card books. It's expensive. You can't find it on, I have it though, the PDF, but you won't find it on any other like platform or whatever without paying a pretty penny for it, because I think it's out of print. Let's see, alchemy, astrology. I've got so many PDFs, it's crazy. Here it is, Tattwas. This book here. I got this back when you could get an ebook on it. The physical book's pretty damn expensive. It's called Magical Tattwa Cards. Now, Dr. John Mumford sold these cards and a book, a pretty extensive book that came with them. And I put some of these methods that I took out of here and some methods in the Golden Dawn in the pamphlet of the Tattwa cards that we have at the Fringe FM shop. But I took some of those methods and put them in the pamphlet. But this one's called Magical Tattwa Cards, A Complete System for Self-Development by Dr. John Mumford. Damn, you guys can't see it, can you? I'll show you. That's the cover. And it'll also, if you can find it anywhere, it'll come with a deck of cards too, but they're expensive. And I actually don't like those cards because he puts outlines, which you're not supposed to do, but he puts outlines on the shapes, which you're supposed to let the shape create its own outline. Sounds like the beginning of remote viewing, Genevieve says. No, just look up, if you guys are really interested in this, again, we're void walkers, right? This is all about exploring consciousness practically. This is a method of exploring consciousness and magic practically. But if you're interested in doing it practically, I'm releasing something about it, but this is a great book too. But it's not I don't think it has anything to do with remote viewing. I guess you could develop remote viewing with it, but what it's meant to do is entice visions. It's meant to stimulate and train that part of your mind. Just Google scrying in the spirit vision. Google that. Golden Dawn, scrying in the spirit vision. So when you see all these people with like crystal balls and all this other stuff scrying, and you hear that word scrying, this is where they got it from. I mean, scrying was going on way, way before the Golden Dawn. It's just the Golden Dawn used the Tattva cards to do so. Right on. We'll continue this tomorrow, though. I can't wait to get off here and play Destiny again. I was thinking about doing a whole show on Destiny too, but it's like I may stream it after the show. I don't know. I don't understand why it's like crack to me. But I love each and every one of you guys. If you can support the Fringe FM, please do so. Thank you for spending your time with us tonight. It's fun. It's awesome to have you here and just hang out. I appreciate your time and your presence and everything that you do. And yeah, I guess we're done, man. No callers. Nobody's got any questions about this. I'll do more. I'm going to wait until I drop the course that I have on the Tattvas, but I can't wait to show you guys this, because this is more than, I mean, it's another method for conscious exploration, but it's also like, it's something totally different. It's not like trying to get out of body, so to speak, or whatever. It really shows you and proves, I don't want to say proof because people are going to like hold me to that, but it will prove to your consciousness that things like your imagination, active imagination, things like scrying, even remote viewing, all of that stuff is a much deeper world than you could ever imagine, and it's far more real. If you want to look at that word, even it'll blow your mind once you get into it. That's all I can say about it, because it's hard to explain. I get excited about it because it proves a lot of the stuff that we talk about on this show. To me, does that make sense? Am I making sense? I hope so, man. Yeah. What are you saying? Okay. I'll read the chat later. We got to get out of here. Good night, yo. Good night, y'all. Sweet dreams. See you tomorrow night.
Was on fire and no one could save me but you. Strange what desire will make foolish people do. And I never dreamed that I'd need somebody like you. And I never dreamed that I'd lose somebody like you. No, I don't wanna fall in love. No, I don't wanna fall in love with you. game to play to make me feel this way. What a wicked thing to do to make me dream of you. What a wicked thing to say. Never felt that way. What a wicked thing to do to make me dream